Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our first work meetup of 2025. I hope everyone had a great start of the year. I kept the adorable avatars on because they're just nice to look at and play around with, but those are optional, so you can turn them off if needed from this settings spot here at the bottom right. And I also kept the player identifier turned on. So we, know who you are. So your email was asked for, but you can also turn that off. So if you don't want people to put in their emails. And here are the game characters that I was mentioning. I'm also putting in all of the slide reactions. So if you want, you can go ahead and provide feedback live throughout the session for different slides on the screen. So I'm going to kick us off with, what brought you to the conversation today. The topic was engaging and energizing your teams and setting them up for success for 2025. But what does engagement at work mean to you? What has you engaged, or what does that mean in the sense of, hey, I'm engaged at work because this happens? I'll say mine because I'm not a player in the game, so I'll just say it out loud. Mine is the people at work. So how engaging my team is, how we work together, the kind of conversations we have, the meetings, trainings. Do those conversations energize me or do they drain me out? Let's see. So we used the word cloud question type and we got interaction, which, I agree with that. Motivation, creative work, listening, participation. See how participation is like so much bigger than the other words? What that means is that more than one person said that. So the words that are entered by multiple people will appear bigger than the others. So participation or participating is very much one of the bigger opinions here. I'm distracted by this one because I have no idea what this word means. So teach me something. Put it in chat. What does this mean? And fun, of course, is always engaging. Active learning, collaboration, why we do things. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons I work at Kahoot is because the mission is make learning awesome. Feeling seen, energy, and people. Absolutely agree with the people. Now, because you guys said all of this, it's all going to be stored in the reports in Kahoot. So if I wanted to, I could come back and take a look at it later as well. And then I have another question. So I want to kind of get an understanding of what your title at work is, essentially trying to understand what you do on a day-to-day basis. Like, are you a team lead? Are you in the L&D department? Are you in the finance department? And that kind of gives me an idea of who's using Kahoot right now or who's taking an interest in um, setting their teams up for success for 2025. Which also, I have to say, I'm baffled by how short this January was. I'm seeing all of these memes on Instagram about be kind, it's January 67th. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about because January was like gone. Okay, so we have a lot of people as expected from L&D. So L&D is bigger in terms of the size here, which also means multiple people said that word, but you can see other variants. So L&D manager, training analyst, commercial trainer, HR, training manager. So most of us are from the L&D or HR space, and then we also have senior managers from training and development, instructional design. Let me see what's different. So we have marketing that's a little bit different, coding education supervisor, and key account manager. So I'm always super interested in seeing the slightly different titles because we talk so much to professionals from HR and L&D and operations all the time. So it's always interesting to see who else is joining the conversation. Now, why are we here this morning? We are wanting to talk a little bit about how we can get our teams engaged and energized for the whole year. So, what can we do utilizing Kahoot tools to make sure that our engagement throughout the year is really high? And why are we talking about this? Like to kick off the year, why did Kahoot put this as the first topic? And then what encouraged you to join? Um, some of the whys are engagement is just at an all-time low. Like we people aren't exactly excited about their work. Like, not everybody. When looking at statistics from different surveys like Deloitte and Gallup Workplace, we're seeing a downward trend consistently, and it went up a little bit around COVID and then started going down again. And it has real financial costs for businesses. Like, if you have disengaged employees or employees that aren't excited, then that has an impact on your bottom line. And then also, like, point number three, we'd all like to have a healthier workplace. We would all like to be in a place where we're engaged and we enjoy going there every morning and we like the work that we do. So that's why we're talking about this. And how can Kahoot help you in energizing your team and making sure that they're engaged throughout the year? We're going to present a few tools that we launched all throughout last year. And the first one is presentation mode, which is exactly what I'm using right now. You'll notice that there's not a lot of music in the background. This is very much a business presentation. It's customized to my branding. So the backdrop that you see for Kahoot Work Meetup, the colors that it has, all of my questions are in the same color theme. My backdrop for different screens is in the same color theme. So I'm able to brand it. So starting from that, just having your company's presence and branding and going all the way down to visual engagement, being able to bring your mundane meetings inside Kahoot to make them more interactive. We're going to talk about all of these different features. I have six listed out here, but of course there are so many more, but only so much that we can cover today. So following up on the why part of it, like I see headings like this and I'm like, oh my God. But apparently, Gallup Workplace Survey has found that US employee engagement sinks to a 10-year low now as of 2024. So this is the lowest that it's been in a decade. The last time it was this low was back in 2014. So whenever we started seeing that switch where, we're not corporate slaves, we're people, and we need to be treated like people in the workplace. And there was more technology introduced around making meetings interactive, like having polls, having meetings not be long and boring and structured like lectures where you weren't hearing the audience out. And all of the changes around, oh, there has to be reward and recognition in the organization. There have to be DEI efforts. There have to be inclusiveness. We're seeing all of that kind of going down. So all the benefits that were reaped are kind of going away. And there are a lot of different factors to that. There are external factors that employers might not be able to control, like inflation and just generally what's happening in the world. But then there are a lot of things that employers can control, like reward and recognition, and then managers can control, like the day-to-day experience of everybody on your team working with you. Um, but yeah, stats not looking good. And just to give you a context of what that disengagement means for a business and building a case for having an engagement tool present, Gallup estimates that low employee engagement costs the global economy 8.9 trillion US dollars. I frankly don't even know how many zeros there are in the trillion, but 8.9 trillion US dollars because employees aren't engaged. And that means a lot of different things. Like I was reading a Deloitte report that said 33% of new hires leave because of low engagement. And then the every disengaged employee will cost the company about 34% of their annual salary in various ways, right? Either because they're not doing their job or they don't know how to, or they're not asking for help, or they're not getting the help that they're asking for, or they just leave. And then you have to backfill and go through the whole hiring process and retraining process. But they'll end up costing the company 34% of their annual salary. So that's $3,400 for every 10,000 that you pay out. And those statistics really underline why, if as an organization, you're not investing in engaging your employees, then you're going to end up paying so much more than what you would have paid for some training and some technology that could have addressed disengagement. So Because there's so much that falls under making an engaging work environment, and as managers and individuals, we can't control all of it. Again, like we can't control remuneration or reward and recognition at a organizational level. What we can do is more, how do people work on our team every day? So we're focusing today mostly on how am I making an interactive environment for everyone who's coming to my trainings or my meetings or working with me on a daily basis. Keeping that in context, how is your organization making meetings or trainings more interactive right now? We're doing a open-ended question type, so you have a couple sentences to share, or we're doing a word cloud, so you have like um, some space to share how your company is keeping people engaged. Is it tools? Is it um, technology? Is it training people for making sure that they're able to interact more effectively? Also, I just noticed our player count, our participants went up to 44. So thank you. That looks so much better than 29. And again, if you want to engage with the questions being asked and experience what it feels like to be a participant, which is what your team would be doing as well. So getting that end of the story, go ahead and join in by either going to kahoot.it and putting in the game pin that's available here at the bottom. Or if you haven't already, you can also just scan this QR code and participate. I'm going to hide the participants. So we got 14 answers. Well, no, we got 17 answers. I'm going to go ahead and show all the answers. The great thing about this question type is as long as I stay on this page, even though the timers run out, if you were already typing, you can finish and submit. That's why I'm seeing these answers go up. So I'm going to give, typically I would give a few more seconds for people to finish typing in and then show answers so we can discuss those. But again, you can keep submitting even though the timer has run out. So we have, what are people doing to make meetings and trainings interactive? They're using Kahoot. Wonderful. That's number one. Someone said their meetings are boring. Well, that's not great, but also that's what we're here to fix. A minute to win it game. That's a really good idea. I wonder if we could do a Kahoot version of that. There are Q&As, which you can now do through Kahoot. So this presentation mode is very soon going to get a Q&A where people can submit their questions throughout, and then the host can answer whenever they want to. We have Kahoot role plays, Zoom whiteboards, breakouts, social chats, surveys, and mid-meeting, which you can do through Kahoot, making interactive use of technology, workshops, doing some pre-work, nothing at the moment, which again is completely fine. No, not great, but fine because we're going to fix it. Active learning, gamification, um, your company assigns tasks, you have small training groups, which is a really good point. Like if you have a class of 50, unless you break them down, they're not going to be really interacting with the content that's being shared. By allowing each department to have a representative speaker in staff meetings, that is great. We also include open-ended discussions at the end of certain meetings. Kahoot integration tools, connecting platforms, ongoing trainings throughout the year, including professional development, and we're starting to use Kahoot, but only in some meetings. Absolutely, we're going to help you get the rest of the business on board. So another word cloud, what signs do you look for to gauge if an audience is disengaged? And I ask that specifically because we're trying to address a lot of these issues of, hybrid versus just remote workers or just present in the office. So how do you find out that if you're having a training or a meeting, your audience is disengaged? They're not fully participating or paying complete attention, or they're answering emails, or someone's off video doing their laundry. Elizabeth joined us from Italy. I so appreciate you because I'm sure this is like evening for you. And then Miriam joined us from Slovakia. Thank you so much. Let's see. So eye contact. So eye is very much a big part of it. We got no eye contact here, but then also here in the smaller versions. Then we have lacking participation, being sleepy, and someone said we'll call people out. As someone who has social anxiety, I'm like, please don't call me out. Texting or not asking questions, never responding. There's complete radio silence on the other end. And then video camera is turned off, which I completely get. So We did these trainings, these sales trainings last year. They were so good. The content was so good, but also they were 3 hour blocks every day. And I was having a hard time sitting like this 3 hours straight. So I turned off my video so I could sit comfortably and like not have to moderate my face and expressions. Um, and then it seemed bad for the host because I was turning off my video. So I think it makes sense to want to have the attendees or trainees have their video on so you can see and you can get real-time feedback. But as a learner, I was having such a hard time focusing on what was being said completely. And then at the same time, making sure I was sitting up straight, making sure my face looked okay. And it reminded me I haven't been in a classroom in a really long time. Silence, shy, lack of response, or looking at their phone, all of which makes sense. But I love how no eye contact is such a big one. Um, because this is very much still like a person-to-person engagement. Like I have to be able to see you to figure out if you're actually engaged or not. So, as we dive into a little bit of solutions, like, yes, it's a problem. Yes, it's everywhere. How do we solve for it? What presentation tools are you using right now? Are you using, your very standard PowerPoint, Google slide, or do you have something different? I've recently found people using other stuff like Miro or a Kahoot, of course, but like just alternate. You're not your typical business presentation tool. So very interested in seeing how that split is. So the bulk of us are still using PowerPoint for our presentations, which completely makes sense because that is ever since at least my generation was in school, like literally middle school, PowerPoint was the way to make presentations. And then Google Slides came somewhere around high school or college, and then it's not as well adopted, but ooh, 47% are using Kahoot for meetings, which I truly appreciate. And we still have this little chunk, or like a meaningful chunk now, that's using something else. But it's interesting to see that people are shifting away from PowerPoint and Google Slide as their sole presentation tool, because while those tools are great, and there's so much functionality in there that can't truly be replicated in other places. They are a one-way communication. So it is very much the host talking to the audience and not the audience speaking back or being heard. And that way you don't know what the engagement is. And you have to have an add-on tool that can create that two-way communication, whether that's a chat in MS Teams or Slack or Zoom polls or Kahoot or any other tool. It still does need an add-on. And that's kind of what we did. So with our slide sync option that we have now, I know if you've used Kahoot before, you've been able to import slides into Kahoot for a while now. So you make your presentation in PowerPoint or Google Slides and you save it as a PPT or PDF file, and then you can import it into Kahoot. And you get somewhat of the experience that you've been seeing on my screen, which is I have this slide, but then the last one was a question, and then before that was another question. But then moving back, I had a slide. So being able to have slides and then pepper them with some questions and have more slides, but have like a really nice flow where you don't have to navigate between tools. You stay in one platform and you have your PowerPoint running as well as have your questions being popping up every now and then. That's the experience that we're going for. So the slide import has been around for a while, but some of the missing pieces there have been filled in by having the slide sync option, which means that you or your team members could all be simultaneously working on a PowerPoint file or a Google Slides file. And as you're making changes to those files, those changes are being updated live in Kahoot as you go. So you come back to your Kahoot file and you hit this little update button, and all the changes that were made to those slides will be reflected in Kahoot. And again, you can move them around so that they're peppered with different questions every now and then. So how do you do it? Whenever you get into Kahoot and you're starting to make a Kahoot, you can select the import slides option. And there are three different things that you can do here. One is you sync with a live Google Slides file. Second is PowerPoint file. Or because you're amazing and you've already finalized what the slides look like, you can upload the file directly. With the upload, you're bringing it into Kahoot so that it's a final uneditable version. With the sync options, you're connecting Kahoot to those two platforms, Google Slides and PowerPoint. So every time you make changes to the original documents, those changes will be reflected in Kahoot, saving you so much time in, importing slides or being worried about I have to have the final version before I import into Kahoot. And then this is just a visual of what that might look like. So for example, if I had picked PowerPoint, it would ask me to log into my PowerPoint account. And by logging in, it kind of signifies it has to be PowerPoint on the web. So we don't currently have an integration with PowerPoint desktop version. We currently work only with PowerPoint web because it stores all of the content on OneDrive and it can directly connect with Kahoot much more easily and more effectively. So you log into your online Microsoft account, it opens up the OneDrive, you pick the file that you wanted to add, like this one, which is Let's Make the World a Better Place. And then you can go ahead and import that. I'm going to pause here so I can go into the actual Kahoot on my screen. So I'm going to go into Kahoot here. So this is the Power Kahoot file that we're playing through right now on the other screen. So if I'm here, and we're going to do some hands-on practice side by side. So I'm here, this is my Kahoot file. This could be something that I just started making or a file that's already been made, and I'm just going to go in and edit this. I am going to go into Add Slide, and then because I imported all of my slides, I have that available here. I can pick which slides I want to add. For example, this one is not already added, so I can go ahead and add that right now. Or I can look at any other presentations that have already been imported or add a new presentation. So I click on Add Slides, and then I do a new presentation. This is the screen that you are seeing. So whether you're starting from scratch and you're clicking on Create and that pop-up comes in that gives you the options, or you go in mid construction of the Kahoot and click on the Add Slide button and pick your options from here. So we saw some visuals for the sync with PowerPoint. I'm going to go ahead and pick Google Slides instead. And I would have been asked to log in, but I'm already logged in. So after putting in my password and everything, I'm going to see my Google Drive here. And this is the January work meetup, the slide that we're working on for this presentation. So it's going to go ahead, and because this one I've already imported, it's not giving me that visual. But essentially, you just go in, you get logged in, you pick the slide that you want, and the file gets connected. And once the file is connected, you could actually go to the actual file and make changes here. So updating text, making changes to any of the images and adding more slides. Those changes continue to get reflected in the import here. And then as I go in, because it's already been imported, if I was adding new slides, they will pop up here, and I could just go ahead and add those additional slides to my presentation. So this makes collaboration so much easier because if you've been using Kahoot for a while, again, you needed to have a final version of the presentation before you could import it into Kahoot. And now you don't need to worry about that. You and your team members could continue to collaborate up until the last moment, and then just go in and hit update over here. The other important thing with this is notice how, this is my Kahoot branding. This is the picture on the website. The backdrop, the colors, they're all very much Kahoot. So then I want my Kahoot to feel like my company branding. One of the biggest things that every organization has is branding guidelines. So you have template slide decks for PowerPoint or Google Slide, and you can only use those official templates, and you can't randomly have your own design for presentations. So we can now align Kahoot's visuals with what your brand guidelines are. That's going to be in the themes section. So this is my theme for Kahoot Work Meetup. The Work Summit is slightly different. The company gathering is slightly different. So this one that I'm using right now, I can go ahead and edit this. I'll see the same pop-up as I would for adding a new one. So I'm going to go into edit, and then I have my own custom background in there, because again, I'm trying to match my company's branding. So I uploaded the custom background. I uploaded my company's logo in whatever version would look good with this background. because Kahoot has a purple logo and Kahoot has a, I could have it in black or white just to make sure that it offsets correctly with the background. And then I have a contrast color that becomes the backdrop of any text on the screen. So I'm picking it as blue, but I could also just go in, put in the hex code for the shade of purple that we use. So then you notice how the text becomes either white or black, like where it says Carl, Mary, it adjusts automatically. So you can put in the exact hex code or uh, pick one of the standard colors. And then for the buttons that you see on the screen, so all the options in the answers for questions or polls, and then the backdrop for the words when you're seeing the word cloud questions, those you can pick from here. So I had the dark version in the questions that we're doing. So if I go back in here, you can see the dark question answers. But I could also just do the water, which is really well aligned with the colors in here. So this is a pre-selected palette. We don't have the option to do hex codes here. You get these um, really nice 8 different color palettes that you can pick from. But they're designed in a way that for the most part, you'll find something that matches your company branding somewhat closely. And then we have a few different font options. This is our official font, so we tend to always select this, but then you can pick one that's as close to your company's standard font as possible, and then you can save it. This is going to get applied automatically to all the backdrops within this Kahoot every time it's played. And then if I'm playing this Kahoot and I'm like, well, while I'm playing it, while it's live, maybe I want a different backdrop. You can always just change it during the Kahoot as well when you're launching it. So you don't have to worry always about saving it for sure with every single Kahoot. Maybe you have a Kahoot that's ready, and then you end up playing it on Christmas or Chinese New Year, which is coming up. So you could just go ahead and apply a theme that's very much relevant to what's happening in the world right now. And small, visually engaging things like this make a huge difference to the way that people interact. Like this backdrop, so much prettier and immediately just makes me feel happier about looking at this Kahoot than a plain sad backdrop, like a business super corporate backdrop. So you can change up things, those visual themes during the game when you're starting the game, or you can save the standard version of what you want it to be with the Kahoot itself. So we're able to connect to PowerPoint and Google or import content from slides. The key difference being with the sync, you can continue to make changes. With the import, you have to have the final version. And then you can brand your Kahoots just based off of what is the closest to your company's brand guidelines. You can use the presentation mode. So once you've made the changes that you needed to your Kahoot and you're going to launch the Kahoot for your team, when you're presenting, we have some new game modes available on the presentation screen or the launch screen. So typically, the way that we all know and love Kahoot is the classic mode. And this is the standard way of playing Kahoot with everybody being on their own devices. And then we have a Chinese or a Lunar New Year mode available, which you can utilize, which I just showed you guys on our paused game. But then this is what I'm using, the presentation mode. Some of the key differences between the presentation mode and the classic mode is the control that it offers the presenter. With the classic mode, everything is timed. It's timed in the presentation mode as well, but the difference is with the classic mode, question pops up, automatically moves over to the answer screen, and the timer on the answer screen starts. The presentation mode is designed to be more collaborative. So as the host, I have such an easy time just going back through different screens. So if I wanted to have a discussion, connect something that I'm saying now to 3 screens ago or 4 screens ago, I can do that very easily and then still be able to come back to the screen that I'm supposed to be on and pick up from that slide. Also, when a question pops up on the presentation mode, it doesn't automatically flash the question and move over to this answer screen. You can stay on the question as long as you want, explain it, have a discussion. And this is so important for where you're trying to have some creative juices flowing, some thinking or collaboration starting before people start entering their answers. So you're no longer limited by our answer time of 30 seconds to 4 minutes. You can have everybody be looking at the question for as long as you need. And when you decide to go to the answer slide is when the answer timer starts. So there's so much more control. Visually, also, like you can pull up the join instructions whenever you want. This is not an option in the classic mode. The game pin remains at the bottom, but that QR code is gone because there is a lobby, because you need everyone to log into the game to start the game. The presentation mode needs zero participants to start because it's a presentation. You can start delivering a presentation at any time. So it does not need people to log in. Yes, it's best if they do so they can interact with the answers, but you don't have to wait for the lobby and wait for people to be in the Kahoot before you start. You can start whenever and then just keep this up so people can continue to log in. You can also see all the participants at any given time, which is super helpful. And then once they answer any questions that have points associated to them, they'll get rearranged based off of their scores, and you can see the scores next to them as well. So you don't have to have a scoreboard after every time you ask a question that has points. Again, that is designed for more control and designed for more of a presentation experience and less of a quiz or competition experience. You also notice here how this says game paused. So it's paused. Like this can stay this way, and I can keep showing you guys other things and go into my Kahoot account, do a demo. You as a trainer could go into your LMS or your other tools that you're showing them. You don't have to worry about the Kahoot. You can return to it at any point. So the presentation mode is visually different as well as functionally different from the classic mode. You have a lot more control over the pace at which you move. You have more control over the timing. You don't need to have players before you start. There's no music by default. So you can have music effects, which means sound effects, which means that there's going to be music when a question is being asked. But as I'm speaking, there's no music in the background, so I don't have to worry about increasing and decreasing the volume because I am expected to speak during presentation mode, not so much during classic mode. That's supposed to be more of a quiz or a game. So those are the key differences. The presentation mode is available to all of you in your subscriptions already, so you can go ahead and start utilizing that. Again, this is designed for your business presentation. So if you hear feedback from anybody within the business that says, "Oh, I don't use Kahoot because of the timer," or "I don't use Kahoot because the colors are so different. It's primary colors, and we don't want to use that." All of that has been addressed. We took all your feedback and built this more corporate, more business version of Kahoot that you can utilize across all meeting types. Therefore, no more boring meetings. All your meetings can have the opportunity to have audience engage with the discussion. In addition to this, so this is most of this is visual and connecting to the presentations that you already have and connecting to the business brand guidelines that you already have. But another reality is that sometimes you need to put things together really quickly. So, for example, I'm going to hop out of here. For example, you have a meeting, and just this morning you're like, I heard about the Lunar New Year, and maybe I want to add some interaction, like a couple of questions just to energize people before we start talking business. Or like in my team, we have something called the Friday wrap-ups. So, like before we launch into our wrap up of what we did this week, what are we planning on doing next week? Maybe I can ask a couple of questions. Maybe I can have them not just give me feedback or their thoughts through Kahoot, but just randomly ask interesting questions to energize and get them interested and woken up, get those eyes open before we launch into a meeting. So, for stuff like that, you can use our AI generators. You don't have to do like Googling, researching, finding questions, coming up with the right or wrong answer types. You could just go in here and say, "Hey Kahoot, I want to generate a Kahoot based off of a topic And the topic's gonna be Lunar New Year. And then just make me a Kahoot. And then this one, I'm gonna do a quiz, right? Guys, my whole idea is I want to have a few questions that wake up my team. Um, I could also just change this to presentation, in which case it's going to go around and change up the format, give me more information, give me slide presentations, and give me an idea of what those answers are going to be before it actually asks the question. But bringing it back to quiz and saying, I want this to be pretty difficult. I want a humorous tone of voice. And I think I just need 15 questions. Then I'll refresh and I can see the new questions that it gives me. So, how often do you celebrate Lunar New Year? What animal represents 2023? Which color symbolizes good luck? So I'm going to go ahead and add this one. And then this inspires me to ask, what was 2024? It was a dragon. What's 2025? It is a snake. So I can add some more questions there. Which color symbolizes good luck? Why are red envelopes given? So I can pick just the ones that I like, or I can pick all of them. Or I asked one question about Lunar New Year. So like this one has been added in the back already. Maybe I change it up. Maybe now I ask a different question. So we just had MLK Day off. Um, so we can do. So, because this is also like very timely in what was happening in the world, I can go ahead and add one question about MLK and then maybe a couple others about, other topics that are relevant. So I can give Kahoot a topic, or if I have a trusted source, for example, my own website or a Wikipedia source. So I could just go ahead and also just pick Wikipedia and give it an article from Wikipedia. I can have Kahoot generate these different questions or these different slides for me. So we have based off of a topic, based off of a URL. With Wikipedia, I don't have to get the link to the article. I can just go in and search for the topic, and it searches through the Wikipedia database to pull content. So whatever the articles on Wikipedia are get pulled up here. I pick the one for Lunar New Year, and then it's going to give me some more questions like, what is a common food during Lunar New Year? Dumplings. I love dumplings. The last one is PDF. So if you have a document, this one's my favorite. If you have a document already, for example, the presentation that we just made, and then synced through a Google Slide sync or a PowerPoint sync. Go ahead and save it as a PDF and then throw it in here. And it's going to go ahead and make questions off of your PDF document. So now you have your presentation synced into Kahoot. It's all connected both ways. And then you don't even have to come up with Energizer or Breaker questions because Kahoot will do that for you based off of your own content. So it'll do some opinion and poll type questions and some quiz or learning type questions. To kind of understand what that means, you can look at the question type dropdown. So the ones that have points associated with them are designed for testing knowledge, and it's these three at the top: quiz, true or false, type answer, sliding off of a number scale, pinning on an image to find the right spot, or rearranging a puzzle to put it back into the right order. And then the ones for collecting opinion, which is mostly what we did today, we have full, again, scale. So, how would you rate your experience kind of questions. NPS, this does specific NPS math, so shows you all the promoters and detractors. Drop in to show, where are you from on a global map, or on this whole scale, where does your opinion fall? We did a lot of word clouds today. We did an open-ended, and then the brainstorm is like getting ideas from your entire audience set and then voting on those ideas. So it has that second step of voting and being able to collaboratively make a decision. So these are the two different types of questions, and then a breakdown of points for testing knowledge and just collecting opinions. And overall, Kahoot offers 13 different question types, 6 for testing knowledge and 7 for collecting opinions. The best part, again, you don't even have to come up with these questions yourself. Just go into the Kahoot generator. So add a question, generate, either give it a topic or give it your document. It'll read through your PowerPoint and give you question suggestions, or you can give it any URL from the web or a Wikipedia source. That's going to save you so much time in building Kahoots or adding fun questions, energizer questions, icebreakers, or even content-specific questions for your material. Um, and if you weren't looking specifically for questions, if you needed a structure for, I want to have a workshop with my team, then we also offer structure. So end of year event, we have a template that gives you different prompts on what you can add. In the middle of a live event, having an energizer, we give you a template that gives you instructions. Something that's relevant right now is annual planning and team kickoff meetings. A lot of us are doing those. I have one today in the afternoon. So this goes ahead and gives you instructions on what you can add in a team kickoff meeting. So you can start off with a, question like how excited and prepared are you for this new year? And that's where we're using the scale type question. Then there are slides. Again, you can add your own theme in the background to make sure that it looks visually like your company's content. And then sample questions, you can of course change those, but it gives you that entire structure of the meeting, so it takes away a lot of the thinking work. So the way that we use our templates in our AI is very much to assist you in being able to do your work faster and give you a good quality starting point. So it's designed to be a really good first draft from where you can go and add your own magic to it. And the last thing from this list of making content and meetings and trainings more engaging is media embed. So if I go into this Kahoot again that we're already playing in that other window, we have the ability to embed content, visual content. It can be something that you created yourself, like a graph or a bar chart, or it can be something that you just grab from Kahoot's integrations. For example, in here, I can either upload my own media, so it can be a video or an image or an audio file, maximum up until 200 megabits in size. So I can upload directly from my computer. Or I can use one of our integrations. For images, we have Getty and Unsplash. So these libraries are available to you royalty free. These are high quality images that you typically have to pay for if you were using Getty, but it's integrated here. And you can use these in your presentations. And then we have Giphy, which we love and use very often. So you can get standard GIFs or stickers. You can also embed YouTube. So you just search for a topic or paste a direct YouTube link in here and it will pull up the video. For example, if I were to search for Kahoot, it's going to search YouTube's database for Kahoot and pull up all the videos about it. You can also do the same thing with Vimeo. So you open Vimeo, grab the link, paste it here. You can have Kahoot read all the text out loud, or you can record your own audio and upload it in here. Again, you can also just directly upload media from your own computer, images, videos, as well as audio files. So making every screen visually engaging is so much easier now. We also have during some of the later slides, videos embedded. And then when we uploaded our own video, we were able to go in and select what part of the video do we need played. So it's a 57-second video. And then within the Kahoot, we set it up to start from 3 seconds and for it to go all the way down to 49 seconds, not the full 57. So you don't have to edit your file to perfection before uploading it. You can put it in there and then just choose what part of it to play. So those were our media embed options. Now, I know that there are a few questions in the chat that Andy and Lisa have been answering consistently for us. I'm going to go ahead and give us an opportunity to make sure all our questions are answered. So I'm going to take a look at chat. Someone said PowerPoint has a chokehold on my org, and I know. A lot of organizations. That is why we have now that integration because PowerPoint's not going away, neither is Google saying we just gotta find a way to make it better. Wow, looks like fingers on fire. Lisa and Andy have all of the questions answered. So I'll just go back to our Kahoot and the next question I have for you guys. And again, look how questions not going away. It's just saying on the screen. Which of the following are interactive question types that Kahoot offers? And then I can choose to go to the next screen, and that's when the question timer starts. So I can see how much time is left, how many answers I've received. And this is a quiz type question. So for this one, you're going to get some points. Turn the volume a little bit now. Let's see. So, pretty easy question because all of those are interactive question types that Kahoot offers. And most of us got it right. Some of us didn't know that NPS and drop-in are options, but they are. True or false? Presentation mode gives the host less control of the timing of the presentation. Ooh, I see the answers coming in much faster on this one. This was false, and you are absolutely right. The majority of the audience got it right. Presentation mode gives you more control of the timing because I can move at my own pace. Other than the timer that you set for the answer on each question, everything else is under the host's control. You can go back on slides, you can stay on slides as much as you want. Let's take a look at the scoreboard. This is different again from the classic mode that you're used to. So it's not a big scoreboard that pops up after every time a question is asked. Again, that also gives you the control. So I didn't choose to show the scoreboard after the last question, but I am showing it after this one. So there's more control for me as the host to pick when I want to have a discussion on scores. And Erica is leading, closely followed by Schneeps and Marcel. Now, I think I have one more question for you. This is a slider type. How many trillions of dollars does Gallup estimate low engagement costs? This is from one of the slides in the very beginning when we were talking about how disengaged employees have a real bottom line cost for businesses. And it helps you make the case for buying or investing in tools for engagement because even if the company doesn't spend on these engagement tools, they will end up losing money in other ways and probably more money in other ways. So how many trillions of dollars? I was tempted to ask how many zeros in a trillion, but I think that would have been harder. I love this question type because it fakes you out so much with the animation at the end. Was it 3.9? No, it wasn't. Was it 8.9? Yes, it was. It was $8.9 trillion, which is 9% of the global GDP. Two people got it right, exactly 8.9. And then as you notice these little blue bars, so this is a answer margin. So for you can select a short answer margin or a really high margin where even if you get the answer wrong, but you're close enough and you're within the margin, you still get some points. So let's take a look at the scoreboard now. Erica's still leading, so we can tell that Erica was paying close attention. Schneeps and Marcel in the same spot. I see Sunny Day move down a little bit with Nicholas climbing up. So happy to see that people were paying attention. Now, in terms of opinions, we have a whole year of webinars and content coming up for us. At this point, I'm going to give a special shout out to Lisa for putting together the content for today's webinar and putting together this nice presentation and Kahoot for us. We would love to hear from you in terms of what is going to be useful for you to learn about. From a training perspective, we offer two different trainings that happen every month. One is called the Kahoot Basic Webinar. That's meant for all new users on Kahoot. So if you have someone on your team who's never used Kahoot before, that would be the training for them to join, where we talk about how to log into the platform and navigate through it, how to pick different question types, create a Kahoot, host a Kahoot. So it's very basic, hence the name Basic Webinar. Andy and Lisa can put links in the chat for you that you can bookmark on how to sign up for these basic webinars. It happens once a month for the US hours and once a month for the EMEA hours. Similar to that, we have advanced trainings. The advanced ones are a little bit more focused on some of the slightly more complex or deeper uses of Kahoot. So, courses, for example. In the basic, you're learning how to make a Kahoot. In the advanced, you can learn how to make courses, how to make stories in Kahoot. So you have an article format of reading material that you can use for, pre-training reading, post-training follow-ups. You can use courses for multi-step learning journeys. You can issue certificates through it. So the advanced training focuses on those features. The work meetup is for us to come and have a discussion about what's happening in the workplace and how can Kahoot help make it better. So this one was energizing your team and making sure your meetings and trainings are engaging so you're not losing out on your staff's interest in their performance moving forward. But what other topics would you find interesting? As we're putting in answers for what other trainings would be interesting, I just thought of another thing on the basic trainings. Even if you know how to use Kahoot and you've been using it for a while, I would say still join the basic training every 3 to 4 months because there's so much new stuff all the time that's being launched in Kahoot that joining the basic training will just bring you up to speed with what's new. Let's see, we got some answers. So a training on new features would be helpful. That's always useful. So again, the basic training would be a good one for just getting an overview of what's new in Kahoot. And then with the work meetups, I would encourage you to join the different work meetups when you're signing up for the work meetup. And I'm gonna hop out of the Kahoot screen for a second so I can show you this. When you're signing up for the work meetup, you are able to see the different topics that we'll cover in there. So if you bookmark the work meetup page, this is kahoot.com. I'm going to go into resources and go into our webinars. So this is today's webinar. I'm going to click on register now and oh well, they changed the page because we are already past. So this is a generic update for now. But if you come in here anytime, not the day of the webinar because now it's already happened, but anytime later, it'll show you the exact topic of the webinar and it'll show you in these 3 bullet points the features that we're going to discuss. So up until yesterday, when you could register for today's session, this page had content such as we're going to talk about PowerPoint sync and slide sync. So it was listing out the exact features. I think that's a great way to figure out, do you want to join this month's work meetup? And maybe just add for the webinars that I like to attend, I just add a Google event on my calendar for a specific day recurring every month. And on that day, I go and click on that link when the event pops up and I see what the content is going to be. And if I don't like it, I don't join. If I do, I sign up. So that might be a good way of staying in touch. So for all the new features, there's usually mixed in with the topic that we're covering. So you just go to the webinar page and look at what topics are being covered in that particular month's work meetup. Having virtual versus face-to-face trainings. We can talk a little bit more about that because it's very interesting to see how identifying disengagement is still very much based on eye contact. But as you know, there are so many different learning styles, and especially preparing for Gen Z to be a bulk of our workforce by the end of this year. So they're going to be, by the end of this year, they're meant to be about 30% of workforce. And just all the feedback that you get from Gen Z is, a lot of social anxiety, a lot of not wanting to do things in person, not wanting to keep the cameras turned on, which I think is fair because I don't like keeping it turned on during my meetings too, during my trainings where I'm an attendee. So I think we'll cover more of a how to do a hybrid and virtual training versus just face to face. Someone said I got my directors on board with purchasing Kahoot last summer, and we have used it here and there. I'm interested in any training to really dig into this full potential. For this, I would say the work meetups are the best space because we look at different ways of using Kahoot. The work meetup is very much use case focused, whereas the basic and advanced trainings are very much here's how to click here, click here, click here. But then the webinars on Work Meetup are why should you? And here are the features that could be used. This is a great idea, having some hands-on time for those that have subscriptions. This is a really good idea. We'll try to build it out into the ones starting from, and perhaps not next month because we're halfway through the content creation already, but starting from March, we'll try to put this in because a lot of us already do have subscriptions. So having some hands-on time would be great. Using Kahoot for employee engagement surveys. We should definitely do one that does asynchronous and survey model. How to best utilize Kahoot for smaller group presentations, gamification, new hire orientations, engagement in face-to-face versus online, tricks for building questionnaires. Now, all of this is great feedback. Most of our training topics are based off of the feedback that you provide, and I don't have to take notes because Kahoot records all of this. So whenever we're deciding our next few topics, we're going to go back to our Kahoot report, click on this specific question, and we'll see all of the input, and we'll make sure to keep it in mind. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate you taking a full hour and spending this time with us. Um, I hope all of your questions have been answered. If not, you have our contact information in chat. So Andy has shared, who to speak with if you're looking for missing features from your subscription or how to book some time with your account managers. So if you have any questions, reach out to us, talk to us about them directly. We have a very responsive team, and we hope to see you again next month. Thank you.